Hello, everyone. This is your host, Susan Rosen, and my guest today is Marc Nelson, and he is going to be talking to us about body types. And this is something that is just totally new to me. So I'm just going to be as much of a interested, just drew a blank on person, I'll leave it there, as everyone else will. As you can see, kind of casual here. Okay. So Marc is the lead scientific researcher at Fellow One Research, and he has pioneered body type science, the 4 body types, since 2003, including creating the scientific body type quiz and scientific weight loss programs, basic and advanced, as well as the only online worldwide science-based health community website. And just to get it out of the way, I will be including lots of links in the show notes so people can go to the website. And actually, one of the links will take you to one sample person's information on the website as well. So it's not like you have to go looking for things. So should be some good links there. Okay, so I'm gonna lower that down. Okay, so welcome, Marc. Didn't mean to ignore you there.
No worries. Thank you for having me. Yes, so I can start with opening up about body type science in general, if you'd like. Okay.
Yeah, please.
I think that seeing how your audience has a tendency, it sounds like, to be the 50+ crowd, I will use an example from our scientific body type quiz. It's quiz 1185. He's 58 years old. He's a body type 2. And just so that folks understand body types in general. So until 2003, there were no scientific body types. The only body types that really existed were the unscientific, debunked 3 body types, which are the endomorph, ectomorph, and mesomorph. And again, there's no science behind those.
I was going to say, which none of the rest of us have ever heard of. So probably.
Right. So, but they had been around since the 1940s, when a man named William Sheldon developed them. But again, they have been fully debunked. And the reason that they were debunked is because they aren't based on any science. They are strictly arbitrary, subjective shapes that offer nothing other than arbitrary, subjective
shapes.
Whereas our body type science, which again started in 2003, is based on genetics. So I was born in a body that lacked muscle and muscle mass. And my general backstory is, when I was around 8, I was a star soccer player, and I was out on the soccer field during a shirts off practice one day, and I began to notice that my body was very different than most of my peers. Okay. And as I grew and I hit age 10, I began to notice even more. And when I hit puberty, that my body had fat all over it where there should be muscle and muscle mass. And I was not an overweight or fat child. I was well within my safe BMI weight range. When I would go and get my physical, the doctor would tell me I was totally normal because I was within my safe BMI, yet I had skinny fat all over my body. And so this led me on my journey to figure out why. Why do I have skinny fat? Skinny fat is cellulite, thin fat, loose skin, saggy skin, crepey skin, or normal weight obesity. Why do I have skinny fat all over my body, even when I'm well within my safe BMI weight range, when, according to mainstream science and medical doctors, when I am within my safe BMI weight range, I am a body type 1. I am the standard scientific human body anatomy book body type 1 that you find in any standard scientific anatomy book. So that's why I started my journey, was to figure that out. And so what I came up with was I looked at the hormone body types, and that didn't make any sense, because just as we have body types up on our site where the person is a body type 2, 3, or 4, but they've never been diagnosed with any hormone imbalance. They aren't dealing with a hormone imbalance, and so hormones just didn't do it. But they just didn't add up, because if hormones were the reason for your body type shape, then it would be true for all people. You would be able to find a correlation, right, and see that if this hormone was out of balance, you would have been diagnosed with it by your doctor, and therefore you would be this body shape. But none of that's true. It's just this sort of arbitrary hodgepodge of different body types, and they say, well, you're a thyroid, or you're this hormone or that hormone. But again, we have body type 2, 3s, and 4s up on our site who have never been diagnosed. They are not dealing with a hormone imbalance, and yet they are dealing with skinny fat and a body type 2. So hormones just didn't add up either. So we broke down the body in terms of the vertebrae in the back. And we know that it's a scientific fact that any part of the human body can be underdeveloped to whatever degree. That includes muscle and muscle mass. Just as it is a scientific genetic fact that every vertebra houses a specific set of muscles. So what happens if you have vertebra that have underdeveloped muscle or muscle mass? You get posture issues, and you get metabolism issues, because 1 pound of muscle mass burns 6 calories daily, but 1 pound of skinny fat or fat only burns 2 to 3 calories daily. So we looked at this from a genetic point of view, and we broke it down relative to the 26 vertebrae, meaning the 7 cervical, 12 thoracic, 5 lumbar, 1 sacrum, and 1 coccyx. There are 26, and we broke it down in terms of a body type 1 is just the body type 1. It's the standard image that you are being judged by every time you go and see your doctor. That is a body type 1. It has 0 underdeveloped vertebrae and muscle mass. A body type 2 has 1 to 8 underdeveloped vertebrae, including muscle and muscle mass. Body type 3 is 9 to 17, and a body type 4 is 18 through 26. So that's how we came to our 4 body types, and a general overview of things. I'll sort of pause here and see if I'm making any sense.
Yeah. No, it does to me. It's obviously an extremely different way of looking at and analyzing, I want to call it, the body, and kind of where you are in the norm.
Right. And so, and I use my body as the example of this, because I was born in a body type 4. Again, I was born with very little muscle and muscle mass all over my body. And it was easy to correlate it, because I could look at my own body and be like, yeah, I'm missing muscle mass everywhere. Right. But if we look at, say, body type quiz 2, 1185 up on our site, he is 58 years old, and he is, according to our quiz, he is lacking muscle and muscle mass relative to his lumbar 2, 3, 4, 5, and sacrum. And why we came to that is, one, we have his images up on his profile page, but we also look at things like, where does he have a tendency to put on fat weight on his body? Where does he have skinny fat on his body? Because those two things have a strong tendency to correlate. Where you have skinny fat on your body, you are likely to put excess fat weight on more easily. So that's a general overview of 1185 and why we came to him being a body type 2. And you can look at many of the different images up on our site. We've got one very telling image that has a body type 1. These are real people who took the real quiz, and you can see that we have a body type 1, a body type 2, a body type 3, and a body type 4 all placed side by side, and you can see their back, and you can see where they are lacking muscle and muscle mass relative to the vertebrae that we identified in their quiz. So we are obviously science-based, therefore we are evidence and facts-based, logic and reason, and that's how we came to things. So again, I'll sort of pause here and see what questions you might have.
Well, I guess it probably would next in what you're talking about is, okay, so how does that affect my health? How does that affect my life? How does that affect?
Great question. Yes. So muscle is the armor of the human body.
Okay.
There are many advantages to having muscle on your body. One of them is strength, athleticism, agility, speed. Muscle is what generates all these things, is what allows for all these things. So if you're a body type 1, you have more of a tendency to be better at sports, which is why pro athletes, especially pretty much all pro athletes, like 90% plus, are a body type 1. You could look at maybe NFL linemen who are a body type 2, possibly a body type 3, but most likely just body type 2s. Maybe a judo wrestler who's a body type 2 or a body type 3. But aside from those, most pro athletes are a body type 1. And it's because they have all of the developed muscle on their body, because that's how important muscle and muscle mass is. So it's not just sports and agility and all the things that come with in athletic body type. Muscle is also directly linked to your metabolism. So science recognizes that 1 pound of muscle mass burns 6 calories, but 1 pound of skinny fat or fat only burns 2 to 3 calories. So if you are relying on your standard Mifflin St. George or Harris Benedict BMR scores, standard calculated, neither of those are taking into account skinny fat, which means that you are likely, if you're following those standard BMRs, you're likely still eating too many calories daily if you have skinny fat on your body, especially the more skinny fat that you have on your body. So again, that's one more reason why you may think that you're eating the right amount of calories daily relative to your BMR, but if you have skinny fat in your body, you likely are still eating too many calories. So it will directly affect your diet, your exercise, and your lifestyle because of your metabolism and because of your ability to play sports or do exercising. The third thing is if you're lacking muscle and muscle mass, like I was, you are an easy target for bullies. Because I was so weak, because I was lacking muscle and muscle mass, I was a weakling. And I was a super easy target for bullies. I was bullied at home, on the way to school, at school, on the way back from school, at home again, because I was lacking so much muscle and muscle mass, which carried on into my adult life and has pretty much always been an issue because I was lacking so much muscle and muscle mass. So a lack of muscle and muscle mass equates to all of those things. And in place of that muscle and muscle mass is skinny fat. And most people who have skinny fat on their body know it well, cellulite especially. And it's this thing that you want to get rid of, but it's hard to get rid of. You can't just go and run it away, right? You can't just go do cardio exercise and get rid of it. You can't just go and do weightlifting or some resistance exercise and get rid of it. It's a very difficult thing, if not impossible in some ways, to get rid of, which is why most people struggle with it. And it's one of the biggest things that you see nowadays in terms of if you do a search online, how do I get rid of my cellulite? There is no way right now. There are some FDA approved means that will help reduce it, but there's no way to get rid of cellulite. And not all human bodies have cellulite on. So we have a section up on our site that is celebrity body types. And there are plenty of celebrity body type 1s, and they don't have any cellulite on their body. And some of them are now in their 50s, like Jada Pinkett Smith or Elizabeth Hurley, right? Or Mark Wahlberg. I mean, there are plenty of folks in their 50s now who are celebrity body type 1s, and they have no cellulite on their body whatsoever. And so what I'm getting at is, we have a lot of people who say, well, no, cellulite is just this natural thing, or skinny fat or fat. It's just this natural thing that as you age, you just put it on. And it's like, no, that's not true. It's true for some body types, but it's not true for other body types. And there's a reason, and that reason is genetics. So I'll sort of pause here and see if I'm making any sense.
Yeah, so maybe you're going to talk about this, and if it's coming up, you can let me know. Where do things like exercise and diet, and I'm not saying necessarily going on a diet, but just your diet, right? How do those things fit in, or, you know, with all of this? Because it can't just be, it's like, yes, there are those people growing up that you always know about, or whatever, and they can eat whatever they want and they never gain any weight, right? Or other people who are always losing weight. They can't eat enough to keep enough weight on them. But for the majority of people, there's kind of a correlation, right, between what they eat, how much they eat, and how much fat or whatever that's on their diet. So where does all of that kind of lead us?
So diet in terms of calories. So let's just look at the old weight loss model versus the new weight loss model. So the old weight loss model is calorie in, calorie out. A calorie is a calorie, is a calorie, and that's it. And you can
Weight Watchers.
Right. So, but new weight loss has completely debunked that and says that a calorie most certainly is not a calorie. You cannot eat a McDonald's French fry and expect it to be the same as a piece of broccoli. A McDonald's French fry is tastier, but it has really no nutritional, and well said. That is also relative, right? So, but if you're a young person, especially, Marc, to talk a young person into eating a piece of broccoli over eating a McDonald's French fry, unless you can get them to see the science behind it and help them understand that the quality of your food matters. So what we're talking about is glycemic index. And that is basically how the food that you eat affects your blood sugar and how rapidly it spikes your blood sugar or doesn't spike your blood sugar. So if you're on a low carb diet, then you are looking for somewhere around 56 grams of carbs per day or less, somewhere in that general area. And if you are looking to eat a low carb meal, you really want something that is a glycemic index of somewhere around 56 or 57 or less. And that's basically just means that it has a lot less sugar in general, because what a carb really is when broken down is sugar. And there's different parts of a carb. There's the sugars, and then there's the fiber, and then there can be starch. But what we're looking at in terms of carbs in general is sugar and fiber. What we want is carbs that are high in fiber and lower in sugar, right? So fruits and vegetables are the best because they have tendencies to be high in fiber and lower in sugar, and that can be relative to the specific type of fruit. But even then, fruit in general, even fruits that have a tendency to quote unquote be higher in sugar, I would say are still better than a piece of kiwi, right? Yeah. So, but most people don't realize that when you go out and you eat fast food, processed junk, fast food, that is typically a high glycemic index. Even though you might say, well, I just ate a McDonald's hamburger. I didn't have a chocolate shake. I just had a hamburger. Well, what you don't realize is that the bun that you're eating is all white bread. So it's basically high in sugar. It's got a high glycemic index. And then all the sauces are all high in sugar, the ketchup and the mayonnaise.
And the hamburger itself. A
And
lot
the
of times they put stuff in it.
right, and especially how they cook it. So does it
Yeah.
have is it poor quality fats that it was cooked with? Yada yada. So fast food has a tendency to be low quality ingredients that's high in sugar, uh, carbs, which are sugar, and then poor quality fats. And so if you're just going by the standard calorie in, calorie out model, then you think, well, so long as I go and I have only a small junior burger at Wendy's instead of the large burger, right, then I'm doing myself a favor because I'm only eating so many calories and therefore I'm doing well with my diet. You're wrong, because the quality of the food that you eat matters. So in terms of diet, there are most certainly some people who can eat whatever they want. I knew them. I still know them, and they are maddening. But they most likely are a body type 1, and they have full muscle mass development on their body, which means that they have a very healthy metabolism, because another advantage of muscle is that it burns calories. Right. Whereas if you have skinny fat on your body, even if you're within your safe BMI, if you're someone like me who has skinny fat on their body, which when I'm in my safe BMI, it's called normal weight obesity, which carries the same general risks as obesity. Even though I'm within my safe BMI weight range, I have normal weight obesity, meaning I have too much fat on my body still, even though I'm well within my safe BMI weight range. And science and medical doctors really have no explanation for this. All that they care about is the BMI. So when you ask them about it, well, I'm within my safe BMI, doc, why am I dealing with skinny fat all over my body? And it's hard for me to get an answer. I've never really gotten an answer because they don't really know.
They dance around it.
They dance around it. And so, and that's a huge problem because, again, even if I'm within my safe BMI, if I am eating a diet that is not healthy, then it's going to affect that skinny fat. Where I have skinny fat, I'm going to have higher tendencies to put on fat weight because that skinny fat is burning much fewer calories than the muscle that should be there. So your diet most certainly matters, and the quality of your food matters. We don't necessarily push a certain diet in terms of our scientific weight loss diary. We have a whole list of diets up on our site, but we do believe in the science, and the science says that the best diet right now is the blue zone Mediterranean diet. And the short of the long of that is we have sort of combined the blue zones, which are 5 areas on the planet where people live to be in their hundreds, and they live normal, healthy lives. They aren't popping a bunch of allopathic pills and struggling in their 70s and 80s just to get to their 80s. They are actually living true, normal, healthy lives into their hundreds. And it's because of their diet, exercise, and lifestyle. So those are the blue zones. And then, of course, the Mediterranean diet has a lot of science behind it. And it's just a really good diet in general. It's a flexible diet. It can be low carb, it can be low fat. You can eat meat, you can not eat meat. It's vegetarian based. You can be probably vegan is the one thing that would be tough on the Mediterranean diet.
Yes, you're right.
But it's definitely flexible. So again, we don't push a specific diet, but we do have a list up on our site along with a list of exercises. And we encourage that, one, you understand your specific body type, and then 2, you learn what the best diet, exercise, and lifestyle is for your specific body type. And that's why we created the scientific body type quiz, so that you can track all that, yada yada. So I'll sort of pause here and see what questions you might have.
Well, I do have one comment for sure, which is that, yes, I'm totally on board with the Mediterranean diet. I mean, I've done a number of podcasts over the last couple of years, especially before I started doing interviews as often as I do now, where I was doing my own, just me talking. And I did at least 3 or 4 just on the Mediterranean diet, because it's like you can't turn around without running into a new survey, a new paper, a new whatever, showing the Mediterranean diet being the best, period.
Indeed. Yes.
And it's such an easy diet, personally, I find, to eat. I mean, it's all the things that I eat normally. So it was no big deal, you
Same
know.
here. And that's because it is flexible, indeed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it
And
is.
it's good stuff. I mean, it's tasty and
Now
you know,
you and I say that, and I
yeah.
definitely agree with me. But when I was growing up, especially when I was a kid, because McDonald's and
Oh yeah.
all the fast food restaurants were so popular and still are, and
Mm,
Sam's Club, frozen foods like pizzas and such. It's like when you're a kid, you just don't really give it a whole lot of thought.
mhm,
I was so active that even though I had skinny fat all over my body, I mean, I was a really active kid. I
mhm.
played a lot of
That's how my
sports,
husband was. Yeah.
right? So I was still thin, but I was skinny fat, and so I started to really watch my diet more once I hit around age 10 or so because I didn't want to be obese.
Yeah.
But it was tough. It was tough to have access to any other foods other than the fast junk and processed foods, especially in the mid 80s, because calorie in, calorie out was the weight loss model, and that's just how it was. I don't think that it's really changed that much nowadays in terms of if you're a young person, if you're in college or
Mhm,
such, right? You probably have limited funds,
mhm,
and fast food is just easy. So as much as I think that you're right, the Mediterranean diet for me is easy. I love the
mhm.
food that I eat.
Yeah.
It's harder for especially younger people because they just don't know yet. But that's why this show and other shows like it are great because we're trying to educate them that it's not as hard as you think.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, exactly. Exactly. Well, I think that there are a lot more people out there doing podcasts, doing just their whole lifestyle. I mean, the whole oh shit, I can't think of what it's called. Oh, I can see it and I can't think of it. It's what happens when you get older. It's like the short-term memory is just like gone. Um, I was thinking about the guy who started all of that, all of the low carb. Um, can't think of his name. Anyways, it'll come to me. But there are all of these people, and they have all these groupies around them. It's the best way I can describe it. But a lot of them have some really good diets. They have some really good things um, that can introduce people, right, to start eating more healthfully.
It's
Get
why
the
we
carbs down.
Right.
Yeah,
It's why we have a solid list of different diets up on the site
yeah,
because we really do believe that there are plenty of good diets out there, whether it's
yeah.
the Atkins diet, whatever the diet is, there are plenty of healthy diets. So we're not trying to just say, oh, this is the only diet,
Hmm.
right? But the point is that figuring out a healthy diet for your
Right.
specific body it's work. It's not just it took me time to figure out what does work best and what doesn't
Hmm.
work best, especially for my gut bacteria. I'm sure that you
Mm,
know the importance of
mm,
gut bacteria and
hmm.
keeping them healthy, right? So
Yes.
it's basically what am I eating that is working in harmony with my gut bacteria and keeping the rest of me healthy. Because when my gut
Yeah.
bacteria aren't healthy, then my immune system's not healthy and the rest of the
Right.
body's not healthy.
Yeah.
So it's all symbiotic. But figuring out a solid diet really starts with understanding that you need high quality food. So whole food, whether it's
Organic.
and
Organic.
if you can afford it, organic, most certainly.
Well, organic is actually,
It
as
is
an
getting
aside,
better.
it's much more well, and part of that is probably also where I live.
And same
Okay.
and same here. We have a lot of choices here, so
That's
it
right.
keeps prices down.
That's right. That's right. And technically, they're usually not, unless you can get them on sale, they're not as low as the others, but there are also things that you don't need to buy organic, like
Right.
avocados.
Right.
You know,
Right.
they've done a lot of tests, a lot of, you know, experiments and stuff with the avocados, and there's no difference.
Right. And it's the same with dates. And so
Yeah,
if you do the research up online, they have
that's right.
the Dirty Dozen where you
Yes,
should
yes,
avoid,
right.
right? And then
The
there's
environmental working group.
right. And then
Yes,
there's the Clean 15. So you
yes,
are
yes.
right. So but
I
but
do
that's
them. I do podcasts about them too. Yeah.
yeah. And so, but that's really it.
Hmm.
It's really figuring out
Yes.
what you can afford, what works best
Yes.
for your body. But that
Yes.
really starts with understanding what your body type is. Because if you are dealing with muscle and muscle mass all over your body, then you are one of the lucky few who can likely eat whatever you want, right? And
My
especially
husband.
when you are younger and just not
Yeah.
worry about it. But for the rest of us who are body type 2, 3, or 4, we have to pay more attention to things. And then if you have
Mhm.
food allergies and such, then you gotta, so it gets complicated. But that's really what it's all about. So we have so many people who come and take our quiz who
Mhm.
are convinced that they are a body type 1, they're just overweight because that's what they've been told, right? And then
Yep.
so we had one participant who it was 1170. She was in her early 20s. She
Mhm.
lost the weight. She was right at the edge of her safe BMI, and then she lost 19 pounds. She got down within the mid-range of her safe BMI, and she was convinced. Her doctor told her, everyone told her, if you lose the weight, you'll look just like a body type 1. When she lost all that weight and got down within her safe BMI, she doesn't. She doesn't look like a body type 1. She has skinny fat all over her body still, where she should have muscle and muscle mass, and she's 23. So it's not like she's you or I, where we've crossed the 40-year threshold, and we know that gradually after that point we lose a little bit of muscle mass every year. When you're younger, there's no scientific evidence that the human body breaks down or uses muscle or muscle mass to function unless you are unsafely dieting and you're starving your body.
Right.
And it's the only option that it has left is to
Go
consume
back to the muscle.
exactly. But if you're starving your body, you likely have skinny fat on it, and so your body will eat up that skinny fat first. So what I'm getting at is if you're younger, there is no scientific evidence that your body burns muscle or muscle mass if you're safely dieting. So you are already a body type 1 if you are within your safe BMI weight range. So technically, there should be no reason for you to have to lift weights or do really any exercise once you're within your safe BMI weight range, because you have all that muscle and muscle mass. Now, of course, we are huge fans of exercise. So I'm not telling young people not to exercise. I'm simply saying that when you go and see your doctor, they are judging your body by the standard scientific human body anatomy book by type 1, by the BMI, by the BMR. And when you are within your safe BMI weight range, you are a body type 1 with all muscle and muscle mass fully developed, according to mainstream science and medical doctors. So there should be no reason, if you're under 40, to have to lift weights and add muscle and muscle mass, because it's already there on your body. So with this participant, 1170, when she lost all of the weight, her first response when she looked at her body, when she was at her mid-range BMI and she did not look like a body type 1, was, I must have lost muscle and muscle mass when I was losing weight.
Oh no.
But again, there's no scientific evidence that that's true, right? That's just her first assumption, because that muscle and muscle mass isn't there. But the fact of the matter is that it's genetics. She was genetically lacking that muscle and muscle mass from day 1. And we have that on her quiz results. And she just didn't realize that. And she didn't realize how much it affected her diet and exercise, how much it affected her metabolism, how much it affected her life in general. And
Okay.
she came to that understanding because she took our scientific body type quiz. She did the work. She lost the weight using our scientific weight loss diary. And she realized, I'm just a body type 3. I'm simply lacking that muscle and muscle mass where I should have that muscle mass. And there is skinny fat because of my genetics. And that's that. And now that she knows that, now she has a better sense of the diet and exercise that works well for her. So she can at least maintain and manage her body type 3 well as she ages. And that's our goal here. We are trying to educate people so they understand their specific body type, so they can figure out the best diet and exercise and lifestyle for their body type. And they can stop with all the nonsense up on social media, all the lies and disinformation that shows these photoshopped and filtered body images that are just not real. And then you have all these young people who see these unreal, completely false body images that they now are trying to hold their own self to. And that's why they are led to these unsafe and unhealthy diets of starvation, which will eat muscle and muscle mass, yada, yada, and lead to other health issues. So is that making sense?
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. So, so I think one of the bottom line things that you're trying to get across here is that no matter what your body type is, you can be healthy,
yes,
and well, and no matter what your age.
Right. That is correct.
Yeah.
And
that the way you look after you've lost the weight or whatever it happens to be may not be the movie star body.
Yes, correct.
Right.
Right.
Which I think that the second part, I think it's gotten better as far as people getting, I have to look like this or look like that. Just overall, at least our society.
I think that we're definitely moving in we are starting to move in a right direction relative to that, especially as folks up on social media begin to wake up to how damaging it is for them to put out these false photoshopped filtered images, right, when that's not how they really look, and it's just not honest.
God, the stuff that's up there is just so disgusting.
It is. And the only way that we really change it is we educate people. And we bring forward the science like body type science, and we help people understand you have to accept your body and your genetics for what it is. Right? We don't get upset because 4 + 4 is equal to 8. We accept it because that's just a fact. It just is what it is. The same is true with your body and your genetics. They are what they are. If you can understand why they are what they are, why you have skinny fat where you have muscle and muscle mass, that will then help you figure out a healthy diet, exercise, and lifestyle. But stop trying to hold yourself to standards that you will never meet.
Right. Yeah. Oh no, exactly. So out of curiosity, what just occurred to me to ask is, are there, because you're talking about this all being based on genetics, and we all know that genetics developed differently in different parts of the world, having to do with weather, having to do terrain, having to do with,
survival,
many different things, right? So have you been able, or are you not even bothering with trying to connect some of those dots for people?
Oh, most certainly. We would definitely like to connect those dots. So I was on a podcast recently where that was a point that the host brought up, and he said, well, I have a tendency to store fat on my love handles and on my stomach, and that's just evolutionary because the body has to store fat for lean times. And my response was, well, if that were true, then everyone would likely store fat in those same general areas, or right? But and so, are you saying then that a biotype 1 person has no fat stores? When they most certainly do have fat stores, they just are in places that we can't see, right? And likely it's around the organs and other places where the body most certainly stores fat for lean times, so that it has those extra calories when food is short. So yes, depending on the evolution of the genetics, it definitely matters. That being said, right now, science can find no evolutionary purpose for skinny fat.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Right. So if you were a hunter-gatherer and you're out with your hunting crew 10,000 years ago, and you're out in the open and there's no trees that you can climb, and you run across a pack of lions, who do you think is going to be the first person that the lion catches? It's likely going to be the person who has the least amount of muscle on their body, because they can run the slowest. So the more skinny fat that you have on your body, the more skinny fat that you have on your body, likely the slower it is that you move, and you are then the first target of any
and your genetics go away.
And your genetics go away. Exactly. Yeah. Right. Which is why you stated earlier that so in terms of obesity, we don't have strong obesity data past probably 1900 or so, because we just don't have a whole lot of strong scientific data prior to that in general. So we don't really know down through history how much of a problem obesity really was. We have stories of ancient Rome where there were definitely obesity issues, but we don't really have a strong sense of when did obesity really start? When did it really start to get bad? We know from our modern data that it really started getting bad in the 1970s, and it's just gotten worse since, right? But was it something that was always an issue, and we just saw it get worse because there was more easy access to food, especially poor quality food like fast junk and processed food? And that's why we have seen the obesity epidemic grow as it has? Or was it always a problem, and it was simply that prior to the 1960s, we just didn't have the access to the food and such that we do now, and we just didn't see the rates of obesity as bad because there wasn't the access to food? We just don't know right now, but those are definitely dots that we are looking to connect, because it's important that we understand that, right? But we do know that evolutionary wise, that there is no real science that backs up any purpose for skinny fat in terms of the evolution of it. So why do we have skinny fat on our body if there was no evolutionary purpose for it? And so
interesting.
Yeah.
And it's also, I mean, just thinking about my own family, 4 kids, 2 of us had weight problems and the other 2 didn't.
So would you say that the other 2 who didn't, sorry, let me start over. And in terms of the parents of those 4 kids, was one more predisposed to being obese and the other was not? No. So somewhere in that,
I'm trying to think of my mother. My mother may have been a little on the chubby side when she was very young, like very young, like before teenage years. But my father wasn't.
No. So that's super interesting, because again, how do the actual genes play in? It sounds like maybe 2 of them got a recessive gene, which caused them to have more skinny fat where they should have muscle and muscle mass. But that's the complexity of genes is You can
Yeah.
have
It's
somebody who is
interesting, huh?
you can have two parents who are dwarves, and they can have a normal
Yes,
full-size child,
that's
right?
right.
So,
Yeah.
but that's it. Is we need to better understand
Mhm.
our genes, and for some of us, we get lucky and we're a body type
Yeah.
1, and for others like me, we suffer the consequences of poor genetics.
Yeah, yeah. I'll have to look up there and do the body type quiz out of curiosity,
Well,
just to
I'll be happy
see, because yeah, because I mean I was a fat little kid. I was on Weight Watchers when Weight Watchers first started.
were you a heavy eater?
Yeah, yeah, and I didn't do much,
Okay,
running around and exercise or playing sports. The girls weren't doing that then much.
right.
Um,
How about skinny fat? Do you have skinny fat on your body, cellulite or such?
um, at this point, I don't know if they would be skinny fat. I mean, I have, you know, fat, some fat kind of stuff rolls, but most of it, when I worked out, I didn't. Now I haven't worked out since before the pandemic started. So it's like, everything's kind of gone to hell.
And so, prior to, did you have tendencies to have skinny fat on your body, cellulite and such?
Not particularly, not
No.
particularly. No,
So
I mean
that's
now I've got this kind of stuff,
right, right. And so,
but I didn't, that just started when I got, especially when getting older, and then not doing anything, and
how old are you now?
67.
So that is definitely something that, as we know, as soon as you cross the 40-year threshold, you definitely lose a little bit of muscle each year. So it definitely becomes harder to judge a body type as you get older, but not
Okay.
impossible. And you can
Yeah.
see it more clearly relative to the full back shots that we require
Yeah.
with scientific quiz, so that you
Right.
can really see, is it obvious that you're missing muscle and muscle mass relative to a specific vertebra or vertebrae? That's how we can
Okay.
tell. So it's not always just about skinny fat or fat, albeit
Yeah.
those are also telling variables in terms of the whole.
Yeah. Yeah. When I stand up straight, there isn't anything. When I see myself in the back, there isn't any fat or anything like this on my
You
back.
absolutely focus on your posture and you stand up straight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, and that's really it. So it's why we recommend things like yoga or
Mm.
maybe Pilates, because it helps you get to know your spine. And what we
Okay.
say is that it's really about gravity. Gravity is the
Yes.
real weight that is pushing down on your body always,
That's
and
right.
that's what your body is always working uh, against. And we know this because
Yeah.
astronauts go to space, and when they come back, they are missing a lot of muscle mass and building.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So if we can figure out how to use gravity in harmony with our
Hmm.
exercising, then
Yeah.
the only downside of resistance exercises like weightlifting is,
Mm.
once you stop doing those, then all the hard work that you did from all of the repetition exercises
That's it.
gradually goes away. And
Yep.
that can be true at any age.
Yeah.
When I was in my teens and 20s, I
Oh yeah.
lifted weights. And then by the time I was in my late 20s, I was shifting to other types of cardio and such. And I
Uh-huh.
saw that any of the muscle mass gains that I had done from the repetition exercises had somewhat gone
Yeah.
away. That's the downside of resistance exercises, and everyone knows that that's true. But if you can figure out how to do exercise in relation to gravity, right, then
Right.
your body's always working against that gravity, so it has more of a tendency to maintain that muscle and muscle mass over time
Ah,
if you're
okay.
using it against gravity. So
Okay.
we usually say start with yoga, get
Yeah.
to know your spine, and then if you can translate that to an upright and holding your posture and learning
Yeah.
how to walk right, etc.,
Yeah.
you will likely see a lesser muscle mass atrophy over time, especially after you get over the age of 40. So anyways, is that making sense?
No, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I've always had a tendency to, do that even before I hit my 40s. But it's been worse after that.
And with the
Well, we sit too much now as well,
right,
which does not help.
it does not help. It doesn't. And I will do standing work at times.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely sit too much, and as you get over 40, it just hits you harder, which is no fun.
I can't remember back that far.
Well, hopefully.
Anyways, well, yeah, why don't we kind of sum up here? Otherwise, we'll be here for another hour.
Understood. I would say that folks can go to fellow1.com. You can take the scientific body type quiz. Please do check out quiz 1185. Again, he is a 58-year-old white male who is currently using our scientific weight loss diary. And you can go and see all of his scientific weight loss, diet, exercise, and lifestyle data, and comment if you'd like and learn more. And aside from our scientific body type quiz and our scientific weight loss diary, which you can get up on the site, please note that the scientific weight loss diary, we are not in competition with MyFitnessPal or Calorie King or Apple Health app. Ours is totally different. You can use all of those wonderful apps to track all your data. And then ours is really about holding yourself accountable. It's seeing all that data up in one place. You can have it on your phone. You can open up your profile. You can invite your friends, your family, your dietitian, your fitness pro, whoever. They can come and join for free and join in the conversation. And you can see everything slowly unfolding as you track your scientific diet, exercise, and lifestyle data, your images over time and such. And you can hold yourself accountable as you lose weight while you're understanding this is my body type. So I need to have real expectations about what my end results are. And if I don't look like a body type 1, that's okay. Right. And so that's the advantage of our of those two things. And then there's also a book. It's called Overprivileged White Guy, and it's my story. And the reason that I named it that was because I was born in a body type 4, and I was bullied every day of my life. Could not imagine living, especially in this country, not being a white male, how much harder my life would have been. And I realize that 40% of our country doesn't recognize that racism is a problem. But as a white male, I experienced it firsthand relative to other friends and such, and I know that it's real. And I think that the only way that we fix things, including our diet, exercise, and lifestyle, is talking about it. And so the book is written in novel format. It's not some boring scientific jargon, even though it is based off the science, but it's written in novel format so that hopefully it keeps folks entertained. Excuse me. That's really it. And we're also up on social media. You can go up and do the Ask Gnosis, which is really like Siri or Alexa. You can ask us questions, and we'll, as busy as we are, we will answer as soon as possible. You can also go to the website and buy Ask Gnosis credits and ask there. But anyways, so that should do it.
Okay. And all of those are on the regular the website, your home site?
They are,
So all links to all the because you can send me links to whichever ones.
Great.
Well, we can talk about that after I end this thing. Okay, well, so thank you so much. This has really been a very interesting and enlightening conversation.
Thank you.
I really appreciate. I really appreciate you coming on. It was all brand new to me, so it's just very enlightening. Okay, let me finish up like I usually do, which is that neither of us are doctors, and this is not to be seen as medical advice. If you are having medical problems, please go and see your own doctor or go to the hospital if it's an emergency. So all of that being said, I will see everybody next week.